Happy to be here. Excited to kick off this conversation with Jill and Charles. As Jeff said, I'm Erica Wiggins, Director of Marketing and Communications with George P. Johnson. We're a global strategic experiential marketing agency. And thank you. So Jeff already introduced Jill and Charles a little bit, but do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourselves and kind of how you got to where you are now and about your role in your current companies?
So my name is Charles Hunter. I'm Director of Experiential Marketing for Nutrabolt. So we have a variety of sports and wellness brands, one of them being Extend, C4, which is our C4 Energy and our pre-workout, as well as Cellucor. So how I got into this world, this is what I always wanted to do. So I kind of tell this like story where I was really horrible in school, like really bad. Like I was a DF student, and my parents was like really worried about me. And it wasn't until my junior year in high school where I took a marketing class, got like my first ever A. Then I took the next class my senior year, and I remember like the marketing teacher was like, yeah, you need to pursue this. And ever since, just been in marketing, absolutely love finding creative ways to connect brands with consumers. So I do that through events.
Fantastic. Jill, you want to tell us a little bit more about you and how you got to 24-Hour Fitness and your role there now?
Sure. Well, I oversee marketing for 24-Hour Fitness. The mission of 24-Hour Fitness is to help people live happier and healthier lives, which is something that I'm passionate about. And I got there after a couple decades at Nike. And so at Nike, I had a really awesome time overseeing marketing for a lot of pretty cool stuff. The Jordan brand, field sports, global retail. So I love sport and I think the way it helps people, lessons that it can teach us, health and fitness. And it's been fun to be able to thread that through my career. Oh, speak up. All right. Being loud is not usually one of my challenges.
All right, thanks so much to you both. And I think the performance and fitness space is such a great place for experiential marketing. Such great, like passionate fans and so much opportunity. To get started, do you each want to share maybe a favorite experiential campaign or marketing campaign that really stuck with you?
Probably number one, and I kind of reference this as like our Game 6 Jordan. I don't know if you remember like Jordan, like game winning shot against Utah. Like that's like the project that I kind of put on like a pedestal. Is this project we did with Nike in Chicago called Nike Church. And it was really beautiful because there's like, we found through like some research that, you know, in Chicago, when summertime comes around, the violence in Chicago is just crazy. And we came across this really sad story about this young girl who got like hit with a stray bullet at a park. So the concept, the reason why we called it Nike Church is we took over an abandoned church in Chicago and turned it into like the state-of-the-art basketball facility. And we had a whole entire month of August programming, working with like 10 Nike athletes. We connected with like over 2,000 high school youth in the area. I think close to like 70 schools and AAU programs. So we had everything from like obviously the gyms, we had chalk talks, we had training camps inside of it, running tournaments. And that was like one of the coolest projects I worked on. Probably more recently, I wouldn't call it wasn't experiential, but I just love the turnaround that it happened, because we know in our world, like getting approvals from legal or brand just on like a 5-word sentence is probably could take like 6 weeks, if not longer. So Jamar Chase, he's a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. He had an interview after a loss where he was like, you know, I'm always effing open. And then the following week, he scored 3 touchdowns and he posted 7-11 on his social media, right? So little did we know, he had a partnership with 7-Eleven. So the following game after that, he showed up to the game in a 7-Eleven t-shirt, and then he wore a 7-Eleven gold chain during during his game. And then after that, they did a whole retail takeover where they for Jamar, and then they released some merch with it. And I just always thought that was beautiful, the quick turnaround and how they integrated the merch with his appearance, and getting anyone who's ever worked with talent know that it's a pain in the ass. So you can have it in your contract that you need to wear this chain, but them we've all been it where they don't wear it, or they don't do what they're supposed to do, or don't post. So having him kind of do everything that was assigned was really beautiful.
Thank you. Jill, favorite campaign?
Okay, so favorite campaign. So just in terms of ad campaign, it would be Dream Crazier. So Nike Just Do It, Serena Williams. I don't know if you guys remember that one. I think that was 2018. That was one of my favorite. But favorite, I guess, experiential programs, projects that I worked on. I'm going to build off of what Charles's story, which is before the church. One of the roles I had at Nike, I oversaw marketing in the central U.S. And it was a passion project, kind of a labor of love for myself and many dozens of other people. We were trying to solve a business problem, which was Nike at that time was number 2 in basketball, which in Chicago was very bad, and the company was not happy about it. And we had to figure out what to do. And so we thought that we were number 2 because Adidas had an amazing player on the Bulls at the time, Derrick Rose, who was from Chicago, and that was the reason that we weren't number 1. And that was partly right. It turns out, and I'll get back to experiential, I promise, this will thread through. It turns out that really, when we talked to community leaders, we tried to figure out what was happening and why people they didn't want our products as much as Adidas products, is that Derrick Rose represented something that Nike didn't at that time, which was hope. And so he is a homegrown basketball talent. And as Charles already mentioned, in the areas where people buy all the basketball products from Nike and other brands in the south side, west side of Chicago, there very sadly is a lot of challenges with gun violence, epidemic of hopelessness. And so what we needed to do was do something. And that's what the community leaders told us. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound very easy. We just need to do something. So we needed to figure out how to help. And so we spent a year and a half figuring out how to help and what Nike could do. And what we ended up doing was partnering with the Chicago Parks District and programs that were sustainable, and many of them still there today. So from youth to high school to pro amateur to culminating in a massive festival that was free for all over a weekend, we built a program. And so it had some super fun, shiny objects, like a festival with tens of thousands of people that was free for all. It had skills clinics, free skills clinics that were hosted by the USA basketball team, special product drops, pop-up retail, TED Talks for kids that could help them. If you love sports, here are different careers that you could do. You could be a filmmaker, you could work at an agency, you could be a product designer, a product marketer, as well as free basketball skills clinics in the Park District. And so I think from that, I think it's interesting that Kim mentioned earlier, what you're really trying to do with experiential marketing is change people's perspective of your brand. To do that, you really have to understand your consumer and how to help them. And to do that, you can look at your whole marketing mix and how you thread into experiential into what you do. And then the story that I just told, we turned around the business. So we did something that was right for the consumer and the community. And we made a difference, a long-lasting difference, but we turned around the business in the city. So it was that's my favorite thing I think that I've worked on. It was a long answer to a short question.
Thank you so much, Jill and Charles. I think you both touched on something that's really important that I want to get to, which is the potential for the depth and breadth of experiential and all the different arms and the ways it can really impact a community and impact a business. So as far as like in comparison to more traditional marketing channels, how do you feel experiential is coming up as far as like, like any marketing channel, it's got to be strategic, right? You've got to know what problem you're solving for. But I think it also gives a lot of opportunity to engage more with your audiences. So how do you take advantage of experiential to engage? And how do you feel what's your perspective on experiential versus more traditional channels?
So I think that, I always believe that the right kind of moment, the right experience with a brand can change how you think about that brand forever, right? And I kind of go back to I remember when I first was introduced to Spotify years ago at South by, I think Spotify was doing their Spotify Playhouse, I think it was. Ever since then, I am a diehard Spotify user. And this was when the streaming kind of wars with Tidal was coming out. I was like, no, this sucks. Or Apple. I just love Spotify. But I grew my passion for that through that event. So when it comes to traditional forms of marketing, it all works. You want to get your brand out there. When we go back to executive leaderships and board of directors, it's easy to kind of show them hey, we spent X amount of money on this billboard and the billboard made X amount of impressions. Wow. Because, it's numbers up there. But when you start talking about two-way conversation, when we can get you to want to come to our space, and then once we have you in our space, we're finding all these different ways to kind of connect with all your different senses, and then we find creative ways to tell our branded story through an environment. That is experiential, right? Because, brands always say a bunch of stuff oh, we're the biggest, we're the sleekest, we're the fastest, we're the most innovative, right? That's easy to just put on a social media post and put it out live, right? But creating an experience that represents that's really hard, but it's beautiful when it works.
Thank you so much. Jill, what about your perspective? You want to add to what Charles was saying, or?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to change people's perspective in their phone, right? Where everybody's on their phone. It's really hard to make an emotional connection with somebody in your phone. I think all the brands, all the marketers, we all try, but there is something to be said for in real life and the emotional connection that you can make, either to make somebody excited, joy, and so I think you can't undervalue the role of in-person experiential marketing within your marketing mix. I think it's just a really critical part of the marketing mix.
But to your point, and that doesn't mean the traditional forms don't work, because I think the best experiential campaigns are the ones that involve all the other different components, right? So you want to have this 360 approach to your events. We don't look at just our events as just events. We make sure that we're working across different departments, whether it's our PR, making sure we're getting the press, making sure that we have a full-blown content and social team. So I want to know, what are we capturing? How are we capturing it? Where is it living? How is it going to show up? We also want to start incorporating our talent and our influencers as well. So that is a really, I remember before COVID, we never really designed events for social media, right? You wanted press, but it wasn't oh, you need a full-blown, I get asked, who's coming to this thing? What creators are coming, right? That's a whole nother layer, but it's cooler because we have that philosophy of it's experienced by few, seen by many, right? So we know we can only get X number of people in our space, right? It's going to be 500 or 2,000, whatever, right? Cool. If we can get 2,000 people in there, I want 200 million to know about it.
That's a great point. I think that especially after the pandemic, now it's almost if you have an event, it's almost expected that it's a hybrid event. You can reach so many more people. You can do both. And I think that really we're seeing experiential marketing being integrated, and where it almost is becoming more part of a traditional marketing mix. So I think the other thing that when you were talking, I was thinking about, it doesn't have to be huge or massive. I think if you have a creative strategic idea, you don't have to just throw money at it, and it also, it's not just a one and done. You can really go in and make change within communities, and and change people's perspective. So, yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about partnerships because you both have some really interesting partnerships, and that's kind of another way that you can spread the experiential love around a little bit. Jill, do you want to talk about some campaigns and partnerships that you've done in the past, as well as like recent partnerships with 24-Hour Fitness?
Sure. Yeah, I think partnerships are a pretty amazing way to do lots of things. I think to connect with your audiences, to make your brand more meaningful. In my current role with a subscription company, really what you're trying to do from a marketing perspective, you're trying to reach new audiences, get new members, engage with the members, keep the members, because of course it costs more to get new ones than it does to keep the ones that you have. And so you're always looking for ways to improve. One of the things we look at when you look at why people stay with brands is people stay with brands who align with their values, especially Gen Z, millennials. And so how you show up matters. You got to be more than a transaction. And so one of the things we're doing that we're really excited about is we're really expanding our partnerships. And so our strategy to do that, based on the audiences that we need to connect with, what they're looking for from brands, what they're looking for from us, is we really want to enable the next generation to stay active, right? That's really important for our business. We want to inspire and enable the next generation of strong women, and we want to engage in our local communities where our clubs are. And so with that, we've been on a journey to find new partners. And when we find new partners, what they can help us do is they can help us reach new audiences that have an affinity, and more of an affinity with us. We can give them special opportunities. We can create really distinctive experiences for our members that our competitors, that they can't find with our competitors, and give them reasons to stay with us and really invest in our local communities in the way when you partner with someone. I think the best partnerships are 1 + 1 = 5. Many of them involve experiential marketing, or like we talked about, the whole marketing mix. So we're very excited because we've just expanded and we are about to announce new partnerships. We're really invested in the NWSL. And so our headquarters are in Carlsbad near San Diego, California. And we just expanded our partnership with the San Diego Wave. We're very excited to be founding partners and Jersey partners. And so there's many things that we're going to be able to do for our members to provide really exciting experiences. Each of our partnerships has a component where we give back to the community. Yesterday, we announced a new partnership with Angel City Football Club. We're super excited about that. The majority of our clubs are in LA and in Southern California. There'll be more partnerships that we announce in the future soon. And each of them has an experiential component. Each of them allows us to get really engaged in the community. And so I think partnerships are really critical because they allow two brands to come together and to do much more that they can do individually for your consumer, for your community, and for your business.
When we say partnerships, we're just talking experiential or just in general, right?
Well, I'm curious about the C4 partnership with South by Southwest specifically.
Yeah, I'll get to that. So we have partnerships at a variety of levels, right? So we have partnerships and where we do collabs, like with our Performance Energy, we have collabs with Skittles, we have collabs with Airheads. So those are like some of the flavor partnerships but I think at its core, regardless of kind of what I go through, it's like all about like, hey, you have this audience that fits where we're positioned in this product, and let's work together so I can turn them into fans, right? So with Airheads, there's going to be people that love Airheads and then they want to try or extend. But then we also have partnerships with talent, and that's very big too, right? So it's no different than if we were to put the new Jordans on someone, and then automatically those kids now want Jordans, or we put the sneaker on LeBron or Anthony Edwards. It's the same with our energy drinks, right? So we have partnerships with Quinn Ewers, who's a starting quarterback of the University of Texas. We also have Bijan Robinson, who's the starting running back for the Atlanta Falcons. We have Garrett Wilson, who's a starting wide receiver. So we have those type of relationships as well. Also Kevin Hart, who's also an investor and brand ambassador. So that's another layer of partnerships. But then we have the event partnership. So we're the official energy drink of Overtime Boxing, which is Overtime Elites. So that's down in their arena in Atlanta. We also have partnerships with the WWE. So we're official energy drink of the WWE. So that's a really big thing. I don't know if there's any wrestling fans in here, but if you paid attention, you've seen their partnership with Endeavor. Like it's now mainstream. It's massive. And then we also the official energy drink of South by. And really that came because like South by just made sense. Well, one, we're Austin company and South by's in Austin. So we definitely want to work with partners in the same city. But it really goes back to what I was talking about, the audience, right? So South by is very unique where it's very long, which is good because now we have so much opportunity to get a can in your hand, right? So if you've walked around downtown, you should see our teams out here sampling. But also like, it's just like really unique mix of like white collar professionals in the world of business and tech. But then you also get like the blue collar younger audience, which is really passionate about festivals and music and nightlife. No other really event has that, which works perfectly for us because Smart Energy here is positioned for makers, creators, doers, and entrepreneurs. So it doesn't have beta alanine in it. I know a lot of people who drink energy drinks like that itchy feeling. It doesn't have that, right? And it's a much smaller can, 12 ounces. But then we have Ultimate Energy, and that's our 16 ounce. That's in a black can. That's more positioned for like people who like seek thrills and what nightlife, if you're about to go to a party, things like that, because we found through our studies that audience loves caffeine. So that has 300 milligrams of caffeine versus the 200. So I guess all of that because this was the perfect partnership for us to push both these products because of the unique audience that comes to South by.
And you have some here.
Oh, yes. We got some back here. There you go. In that tub, right?
You can experience it right now.
Yeah.
All right. I'm curious, for those who may be experiential curious, but maybe haven't like waded into the waters of experiential, do you have any suggestions for those folks as far as, I know we've talked a lot about strategy and how you don't want to just, if you're just going to throw an event, you may not get the results you're looking for. If you're coming at it with a strategic reason and you're measuring and you're looking at the long game, what are your suggestions for folks that want to get into it?
I think the number one advice I would give to like if I was like talking with somebody and they're like, I want to do experiential, is be committed to it. And I think that it's you have to kind of like want to do this. Like it's not just like a kind of one-off thing. Like you have to have people part of your team that understand this world. It's not an easy thing. Like people go to these events, they go to these experiences, they don't kind of understand that there's a lot going on behindhand. And then brands who don't have the experience and that don't rely on either a consultant or an agency partner to help you kind of bring these ideas to life, I've seen it over and over again. It just falls flat and does not look good. So definitely, if you want to do this, I think you definitely have to understand like all the ins and outs of bringing it to life, because I remember being on the agency. I'm on the brand side now, but agency side, you would come across, companies and our brands that would be like, oh, I want to do this pop up in New York City. And okay, cool. What's your what's your budget? It's like $50,000 in New York City, just permits alone, let alone you want to build out an environment. And some people don't understand it. So if you don't have this department, or if something you want to do, definitely be committed and bring aboard individuals who understand this world and can kind of like help you and guide you through what the expectations are.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jill, do you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I would say be clear what you're trying to do. There's a role for it within your marketing mix. Otherwise, you might not get the return that people in your company might be looking for. be authentic to your brand. Know what you're trying to do. Know who your audience is, and be authentic. Otherwise, it probably won't be effective. And I think Charles said this: just go. You got to commit. You got to go all in for it to work. So that would be what I would add.
Thank you so much. Anything else you wanted to any final thoughts or anything we didn't touch on that you think is important for folks to know about Experiential?
There's a lot of great ones here to check out at South.
Yeah, enjoy. My gosh. All right. Thank you so much. Jeff, I'm not sure if we have time for questions or not. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.